So in this video, we're going to take a look at a nice application of national savings, investment, private savings, and public savings, and how to deal with a numerical example. So we're given a question. I think this is a good time to pause the video and try to attempt this on your own before I solve it for you. Suppose GDP is $10 trillion, consumption is $6.5 trillion, and the government spends $2 trillion and has a budget deficit of $300 billion. You're asked to find public saving, net taxes, private saving, and investment. So let's see how we're going to go about solving this. The first thing you want to do is write down what you're given. And so in this example, GDP is 10 trillion. So that's our Y, and that is equal to $10 trillion. And consumption is equal to $6.5 trillion. We're given government spending is $2 trillion. And we're also given budget deficit is 300 billion. So the budget deficit, which is defined as government expenditure minus net taxes, equals $300 billion. And it's nice to convert $300 billion into trillions of dollars because we have all our units are going to be consistent. So this equals $0.3 trillion. This is because 1,000 billion make a trillion. Okay, and so we're really just dividing this by 1,000. And so let's see what we're given here. So we're asked to find public savings. So let's roll with this first. So the first one says, what is public saving? Recall that public saving is the saving of the government, and this is defined as the income stream of the government, which is coming from the tax revenue less the government expenditures. And so this is T minus G. What you're already given is G minus T, which is the budget deficit, and T minus G is just the negative of that. So if you want, you can see this. You can say, well, this is just negative of G minus T. We're already given G minus T, which equals 0.3 trillion. In other words, we're saying that if the budget deficit was $3 trillion, that just means that public saving or the budget surplus is negative $0.3 trillion. Okay. So we've solved for public saving here. And the second thing we want to talk about is net taxes. So we're asked to calculate net taxes, which is basically saying, what is T? Okay. So notice you're given, in the example, you're given G minus T, and you're asked to calculate T. So what you're going to do is say G minus T equals $0.3 trillion. And therefore, this implies T equals G minus $0.3 trillion, which implies net taxes equals government spending. Again, we're given government spending is $2 trillion, so we're going to substitute it in. And this tells us that net taxes is $1.7 trillion. So we have an answer here for part 2. So public saving earlier was negative. This is an answer. This is another answer. Okay. The next thing we're asked to calculate was private saving. So private saving is the saving of the household. And this is defined as the GDP which is the income less expenses on consumption and net taxes. And notice here we have been given a Y, we are given C, and we have calculated what the net taxes are. So all we have to do is substitute that in, and this is basically saying this is $10 trillion minus $6.5 trillion minus we calculated net taxes to be $1.7 trillion. And so your private saving, if you subtract 6.5 and $1.7 trillion from $10 trillion, then you're going to get $1.8 trillion as your private savings. Okay? And then the question asks you about investment. In fact, if it were me, I would ask another question before this, which is going to be really the same if you think about a closed economy. So if we're thinking about investment, that equals national savings in a closed economy. And that's the assumption we are rolling with in this chapter. So if we could calculate national savings, that is just going to be equal to investment. Okay. So for national savings, there are two ways you can go about this. We know that national savings equals the sum of private and public savings. We've calculated either of these before. So you could just really add this up. So that's the first way of going about this. So private savings were $1.8 trillion and public savings were negative because the government was running a deficit of $0.3 trillion. And so your national savings would be $1.5 trillion. Okay, essentially, your national savings are coming from the savings of the households because the government is really dissaving in this example. Now, you could do this another way where you could say, well, you know the formula of national savings. Again, I like the first way because it helps you not memorize things and really just use your sense of what private and public savings are to get to the answer rather than memorize a formula. So national savings, you could do this as Y minus C minus G. You know what Y is, you know what C is, and you're given G, so you could get to this directly. And this is a good way of checking your answer too. So you could do both ways if you were asked that. So you would just say 10 trillion minus 6.5 trillion minus 2 trillion, and that's $1.5 trillion. And so the answer, the question asks you what is investment, and investment is just going to be equal to $1.5 trillion. So this is investment, but this is going to hold true only in a closed economy setup.